Moving to Boise, Idaho has been a very popular decision over the last few years, and in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. If you're just now starting to think about making the move up here, you are not late. There's still a ton of great things that are drawing people up to our area. And this first one is one of the main drivers of all that relocation up to Boise over the last couple of decades, and it still holds true today, maybe at a little bit of a smaller margin, but the affordability up here on the cost of living and housing side, compared to some of those larger cities, larger metro areas, is still going to offer you a pretty good quality of life. This is a huge focus for a lot of people because life is just getting more and more expensive. So where you live can have a huge impact on how your day-to-day life goes. Up here in the Boise, Idaho area, we do still have more affordable housing options than some of our big city counterparts. And this is on both the purchasing of a home, the real estate side, but also on the rentals. When you're looking at apartments, small homes, whatever your situation needs, both of those, rent and mortgage, will be a little bit less here compared to those larger areas. To illustrate this example, there are 3 areas that we kind of see people relocate from a ton. We're going to talk about Seattle, San Francisco, and LA. So when we're looking at just the housing affordability here in Boise, your housing costs are going to be around 28% lower than Seattle. We're going to be around 40% lower than the Los Angeles area, and we're going to be a whopping 50% lower than the San Francisco kind of Silicon Valley area. There are a ton of great websites that you can go and kind of make this comparison from where you are specifically coming from. Costofliving.com, Rent Cafe, Salary.com, all of the stats that I'm talking about will come from one of those. But if you're somebody that is looking to get that first home, maybe you're concerned about your grandchildren, your children kind of getting that next step of their life going, the opportunity up here is still pretty good, even as housing prices have grown exponentially up here as well. Outside of the housing cost, the cost of living up here is also much more affordable than some of these larger areas. This is the main thing that is drawing people from those more expensive markets up here to the Boise, Idaho area. I think a lot of people know that the housing costs are going to be one of the most expensive things you have to deal with just in your budget, but it's all the other things that kind of fill in around it that really will give you a grasp on what is your quality of life going to look like. So this is going to be everything from utilities, your internet bill, gas prices, grocery prices, all sorts of things. I've got a couple of videos that break down the actual cost of living, the very specifics in depth. But for the purposes of this video, in general, when we're comparing the overall cost of living difference between Boise and those 3 cities I already mentioned, the cost of living here is going to be around 29% less than Seattle. It's going to be around 31% less than Los Angeles. And then it's going to be around 40% less than the San Francisco area. So yes, these numbers do take into account the housing costs big time, but when we're looking at everything else, especially utilities, you're going to be pleasantly surprised when you get up here and see what you're actually giving out. But I do want to be honest, not everything up here is rosy and perfect. So a tip for you is as you're looking at all of this, don't forget to also look at the wage difference. Our wages up here in the Boise, Idaho area, this is one of the biggest cons. We are behind on a lot of things. We just haven't seen that wage growth happen. But especially when we're comparing to these more expensive areas, your salary coming from San Francisco, LA, Seattle is going to be less than it is up here. But both sides are just 2 pieces of the puzzle. So make sure you put them together, look at the cost of living difference, and then you're going to look at that salary difference, find out which one's actually going to give you more of that disposable income, because this is an area where we do still come out ahead on a lot of things, which is why people make the move. Using LA as a quick example, the salaries here on average are going to be around 16 to 17% lower once you make the move to Boise, which is going to feel like quite a hit. But when you put that in with that 30% lower cost of living, you're still getting about a 12 to 14% increase in your disposable income, quality of life, all the other stuff that you want to do. If you have any questions at all about those websites that I mentioned or the specifics of what your livelihood would look like up here, all of my information is down below. I am a licensed agent up in the area and I help people make this move every single day. So drop me a question, email, text, whatever works, and I can send you some of those resources. Now hopping right into the second reason why people are still flocking up here to the Boise, Idaho area, we're going to talk about the access to just all of the outdoor adventure that you have living here. This is one of my favorite parts about living up here in the area. You are in such close proximity to all of the outdoor activities that you may want to try or you're really into. You're gonna have a ton of access to hiking, mountain biking. The river is running right through town. We've got some great options for skiing, snowboarding. Like I said, we've got the Boise River going through, but we also have the Snake River kind of on the other side of the valley. And if you just escape a little bit up north out of town, you're gonna get up to the north and south forks of the Payette River. So things like kayaking, paddleboarding, whitewater rafting, you're gonna have a lot of options for those. Right outside of town, just about a 30 to 45-minute drive from most of the places in the valley, we're gonna have Bogus Basin. So this is a ski resort, so in the winter is really when it comes alive. Has a few good ski hills, you're gonna be snowboarding, snowshoeing, there's tubing. They just added a restaurant and a bar up there, but its main claim to fame is just the proximity. It was actually just rated as the #1 nonprofit ski resort in our entire country. And even in the rest of the year, there are a ton of great hikes. Put in Stack Rock and that'll get you up to one of our favorites. It truly is just a gorgeous part of town. The Boise foothills, also encompassing kind of that north and eastern portion of the valley, are gonna offer you a ton of opportunities for trails. If you wanna go out for a run, you like hiking, maybe you wanna get out mountain biking, take the dogs, take the kids. There are gonna be so many options that you will not get bored. Some of the developments up here, Avamore in the foothills, as well as out towards the north end, are situated to give you some of that close proximity to some of the trail systems. And one of the best ones is right on the other side of Camel's Back Park in the north end. You are just about 10 to 15 minutes from downtown Boise, which means all of the trail systems behind there, they're actually accessible if you want to go for a quick one during lunch, you want to go after work. This isn't something where you have to plan an entire day trip to go on a hike. Now let's say that you do want to get into some of those larger hikes. You want to plan a weekend, you want to go find an alpine lake, maybe you're into backpacking, snowshoeing. Within a couple hours of heading up north out of town, you're gonna find the Sawtooth Mountains, you're gonna find the Boise National Forest, McCall, Donnelly Cascade. There is so much just right outside of the reach of the valley itself. And one of the things that I don't think people always know is the way Idaho's set up. We've got everything here on the southern edge. You've got the Boise, Idaho area, then you've got Twin Falls, and then you're gonna have another kind of civilization area up towards Coeur d'Alene. But the entire central part of Idaho, for the most part, is very, very uninhabited. There's a ton of national forest, there's a ton of recreation area. There's just so much to explore that, again, if you're looking for that outdoor adventure, you're gonna find something new to go up and do pretty regularly. And the third reason why people are still making the move up here to our area is we have got a booming job market and we are seeing some great growth in our economy. Specifically in the tech and innovation sector, we have got some local mainstays of Micron, we've got HP. Both of them are undergoing large expansions. HP is starting to get more into the AI and the cloud computing, kind of those next big frontiers on the tech range. We've got some large centers for Salesforce, Cradlepoint. There are so many tech companies up here. And we're only seeing these start to expand. We're starting to get some of the data centers for Meta. We've had Amazon really start to dive in here. And this is something that I do see continuing to happen, both in the tech and innovation sector, but also when we're talking about healthcare, manufacturing, education. There is a lot of appeal for companies to make the move up here because we are a very business-friendly state, and we currently have a few venture capital firms that are investing heavily into some of these startups, again, specifically on the tech side, that it'll provide you a good opportunity if you want to get into something new, you want to be somewhere that is growing economically. Again, some of the salaries up here will not compete with San Francisco and the Silicon Valley, but that's part of what makes it so attractive to younger professionals, young families, is they're getting in on that industry. And when they look at that lower cost of living and the opportunity, that lower salary is actually still plenty for them to have one heck of a good life. And who knows where wages are going? My economic crystal ball is limited, but when we look at the number of jobs that are coming, how many people would love to live here, and that's really their main sticking point. When we start talking about startups, we start talking about people bringing their headquarters here. We're already seeing it with Micron expanding rapidly. It only makes sense that those high qualified individuals in those desired industries are going to see wages start to creep up because they're just needed here as the company starts to grow. So again, do some of that research for yourself, but the job market up here, because of how many companies are wanting to make the move here, is very, very strong. Now, we've talked a lot about the financials of kind of making the move up here, as well as all the fun, getting out of town, exploring the outdoors, enjoying everything that Idaho has to offer. But you might be asking yourself, okay, but what about the day-to-day life? Well, this is one of the things that draws people up here even more. And it's just the high quality of life that you're offered up here in our area and the safety and the community feel that you just kind of get accustomed to. Boise in particular is consistently ranked as one of the safest cities in the United States with some of the lowest crime rates. But a quick note here, when we're talking about crime rates, this is one of the areas where you have to do some of your own research. Take some time to look into the areas that you might be interested in, figure out what makes you feel comfortable, and then really take a look around. Once you get up here for that initial visit, maybe you're just taking a trip out with the family. Drive around into the areas that you might want to call home and see how you feel. How does it feel to walk downtown during the day? How do you feel at night? That is one of the best places to start when you're thinking about you and your family's future. Outside of the safety, our slower, kind of relaxed pace of life, even in downtown Boise, is much less hectic than some of those large metro areas. You're gonna feel this in the relatively low level of traffic and such that we have around. It is growing, and you're gonna hear a lot of us up here complain about it all the time. But compared to some of these other areas, it is still very manageable. We also have a public school system up here that people continuously rave about. We get strong ratings when you're looking at all of the sites online. And as a metro area, we are really seeing a growing number of cultural and recreational activities for you to continue to keep life interesting. But one of the things that we hear about all the time, and you're gonna feel it when you first get up here, maybe when you're making a visit or when you actually make the move, is in general, the people up here are extremely friendly. It's a welcoming community, and this is extremely appealing to families in particular. And finally, that fifth reason why people are still making the move up here to Boise is that strong and growing cultural scene that we have up here in the area. The cultural and entertainment options are continuously expanding. We have a flourishing arts, music, and food scene. We have some great festivals throughout the year, highlighted by Tree Fort Music Fest, where for about a week downtown, all of the different venues, as well as some new ones that are just for outdoors for the festival, they've got all sorts of local artists, they've got comedians, and outside of the music, you're gonna see all of the different forts that they have. So there's gonna be Ale Fort for people who are into beer. There's gonna be a dedicated comedy fort. There's gonna be Hack Fort. There are a ton of different niche interests that they try to take advantage of. We also have the Basque Festival. We have the Idaho Shakespeare Festival out in Southeast Boise. And one of the staples of our area is we have a ton of great locally owned restaurants, breweries. We've got a good winery scene, both located in town and out past Caldwell. And as much as I focus on Boise and kind of that immediate downtown area, when you look at our Treasure Valley as a whole, that balance that we have with that small urban area of Boise and the surrounding smaller towns, that balance of charm versus amenities really helps you have a good way of life. So even with everything that Boise has to offer, you're still gonna be just a short drive, or even a shorter drive if you choose one of the smaller areas for you and your family, where you're gonna have things like Eagle Fun Days, the small town events throughout the year. You're gonna have the harvest festivals. It just gives you that small town charm with some of those small urban amenities as well, which at the end of the day gives you a lot of that culture and entertainment without the chaos of the larger cities. So overall, if you're thinking about making the move up here to the Boise, Idaho area, you are not too late. There is still a ton of great things that it has to offer for you, for your family, and whatever your interests are. If you have any questions at all of my information is down below. I would absolutely love to chat. And if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, hit that subscribe button down below. That way you are the first to know everything you need to know about living up here in the Boise, Idaho area. But until then, watch one of these videos that's popping up, and I'll see you all on the next one.